Warhammer, one of the most popular tabletop war games in existence. No matter what game store you go to, Warhammer will always have an overwhelming presence compared to other games. There are many explanations as to why it's just more popular. The minis are better than other games, I like playing with a large army, it's more thematic, and many other reasons. Or maybe there's one more thing that isn't really talked about enough. But welcome back everyone, it's me the Warhammer complaining guy, Reverend/Handy, destroyer of wallets, and maker of terrible financial decisions. Back with another video that can hopefully earn your subscription and a like for the almighty YouTube algorithm. So first, I guess I should explain what sunk cost fallacy is for those of you that might not know. Sunk cost fallacy is defined as the phenomenon where a person is reluctant to abandon something they're heavily invested in, even if abandoning that action or subject would be more beneficial in the long run. Now let's use Warhammer as an example with a scenario that might seem familiar. I can't just quit Warhammer. I spent so much time and money on my army/collection, and I still have to paint this inconspicuous pile of gray that's slowly taking over everything. Oh hey, is that a brand new generic Space Marine? Now I know this might be a part of the Warhammer iceberg, like how GW and shitifies the game every few years, but sunk cost fallacy also feels like GW has mastered encoding it into the hobby, kinda like how GW also practices both planned and perceived obsolescence, which I will now explain. So planned obsolescence is when a company intentionally designs products that have a limited lifespan, which then stimulates purchases and increases sales, which in layman's terms means it's designed to fail after a set amount of time. Or in Warhammer's case, codexes, rulebooks, mission packs, and now data cards for each edition cycle. This is one of the more obvious examples of Warhammer being a sunk cost fallacy because, oh, I have an army and I need a new codex and rulebook, even though I know it's going to be only relevant for about 3 years or a few hours to a week because GW can't balance their game for shit. So GW is honestly banking everything on you just biting the bullet instead of quitting entirely because you're already so heavily invested in the game. Then perceived obsolescence is when a company convinces the consumer that a product is no longer desirable or useful due to marketing, social trends, change in style, even if the product is still fully functional, like graphics cards or iPhones. Kinda sounds like Legends, which causes the stigma of Legends models not being balanced, or you can't use those old models because then you're modeling for advantage. But with Warhammer being arguably the most expensive tabletop war game out there, it's easy to see why a lot of people feel like they're in too deep and are trying to keep their head above instead of going under. And if you got that reference, let me know in the comments down below, along with if you think Warhammer is a prime example of sunk cost fallacy. But that was me about around the start of 10th edition when I started to question if I really still liked Warhammer, or was it just the sheer amount of money I spent on it was the only thing still keeping me in. Fortunately for me, that wasn't the case. I still like Warhammer, I'm just not as happy with the direction the game is going in with all the legendsing, and shitification of the rules, and the constant price increases, which is why eBay is now my best friend. With the way things are going, more and more people already in Warhammer, or looking from the outside, are starting to see that the tabletop side to Warhammer just isn't worth getting into anymore, with how expensive the minis are getting and the constant questionable decisions made by GW. You don't need the new shiny, you don't need every single mission pack or codex, and you don't need to buy into the idea that you're in too deep. Now there are some things that I don't think should be included in the Warhammer sunk cost fallacy, and what I mean by this is even if you bought this stuff for Warhammer, it can still be used in other hobbies or future projects. Like glues, which you can use for any other hobby that involves plastic model kits like gunpla or military vehicles. The paints can be used for any hobby that involves painting like any tabletop war game, D&D, gunpla, and even armor modeling, although armor modelers usually use Vallejo or AK Interactive because they try to color match for those that are rivet counters. Speaking of rivet counters, a lot of the paints and hobby supplies we all use weren't originally designed for tabletop war games back in the day. You can honestly thank the model railroading rivet counters for creating a great source of basing materials and paints, because you can buy basing materials in bulk that honestly will last you your entire wargaming career and then some. Carrying cases are also another thing you can use for other tabletop war games if you have one, because we like our beautifully painted miniatures to be safe. Tabletop Stronghold. Buy the carrying case. This isn't a suggestion. Carrying case and terrain combo, because GW terrain is overpriced. But if you want your minis to be safe, the Mag Case 2.0 is made of strong MDF that can support the full weight of a wizard and then some. The Mag Case 2.0 also comes in multiple sizes, so no matter what game system you play or the size of your army, it'll fit on any of these adjustable trays using the power of magnets that have been blessed by the all-powerful Magnet Wizard. Because I bought this overpriced plastic, so I'm getting my money's worth. I myself have the Mag Case 2.0 mini, which is perfect for any Warhammer army or my entire current collection of Battletech minis, but no matter which size mag case you get, your army will be safe and secure and survive that trip to the game store. And if you want to be a massive help to the channel, use my link in the pinned comment or description and use code CRAFT25 for 25% off your next order. So thank you Tabletop Stronghold for sponsoring this video. If you want some terrain or a Mag Case 2.0 that ships to pretty much anywhere in the world for free, go to tabletopstronghold.com. Okay, now that I've talked about the sunk cost fallacy and some adjacent business practices enough, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. No, not that one. This one. FOMO. So FOMO is also known as the fear of missing out, and Warhammer is 100% guilty of using this tactic to get people to buy more and more miniatures and also books, with things like limited edition or exclusive miniatures, special army boxes, special edition codexes, special edition 2000 signed copies of new novels, and also a limited number of regular edition novels. This is, in my opinion, the largest contributor to sunk cost fallacy, because the idea that these miniatures are available for a limited time only, limited edition for Warhammer Day, miniatures exclusive to certain stores, or Warhammer Plus, fuels the never-ending cycle of sunk cost fallacy and FOMO. I have quite a few of these miniatures like the Warhammer World Warsmith, Warlord Titan Heads, Terminator Chaplains, Vindicator Assassins, Sergeant Johnson, and the Command Land Raider and Rhino. These types of miniatures are actual FOMO to some degree, because you can only get them from a certain store or Warhammer Plus, and for some of them in my case, eBay. So I'm going to combine novels and special edition books because these are, I would say, actual FOMO. Since pre-orders are a lie, because GW already has a set amount of product made, and a pre-order usually implies, okay, we've got this many orders, let's make this amount and some extra so everyone and then some can get one. While GW just goes, oh, looks like all the books and codexes we already made months earlier are sold out already. Well, looks like we don't have to sell any more pre-orders. For special edition novels, they make 2,000 copies with the author's signature and a fancy leather cover, or a special cover like these two books. They also do this for the normal hardcover novels that are released at the same time as the special edition novels. So when a book goes up for pre-order, it also only has a set amount made, and then they're gone until it gets a softcover reprint, if they ever do. Special edition codexes I feel are the most egregious though, because it's the exact same book, but now with a pretty cover for a $110 price tag compared to $60 unless it's a Divergent Space Marine chapter. This steep price hurts even more towards the end of an edition because some armies' codexes come out at the very end, so when a new edition rolls around, your codex that released 3 months ago isn't going to perform as well as the newer codexes. And unfortunately, you're probably going to be stuck with that same codex for 2 years until the next codex comes out. Another thing that also happens quite often is the codex is shit on release and sometimes outdated, so you pretty much now have an expensive paperweight gathering dust. And to make things worse, GW then releases indexes to try and fix the army, when codexes should just be free online if they can't get the goddamn rules right the first time. Codexes and rulebooks are honestly the biggest complaint everyone has about Warhammer, aside from the prices of course, which is why Warhammer should take a page out of Battletech's book, since Battletech's rules have barely changed over the decades, and even when new models are introduced, it doesn't break the game. Oh yeah, did I mention the rules are also free online? The various novels I feel like are higher on the list of actually missing out, since, like I said earlier, they only make a set amount, and when all of those are ordered, it's gone. So you do actually miss out due to GW creating scarcity by design. But in terms of making people fall for FOMO, Not so much. This belongs to the edition or codex launch boxes. These boxes are the king of FOMO because it's a ton of miniatures at a slight discount when in reality, none of these minis should ever even be as expensive as they currently are. I call these boxes artificial FOMO because GW wants you to think you'll miss out on a great deal when you really don't need another 1,000 points of Space Marines. The Codex launch value boxes often come with new miniatures that will get their own solo release a few months later, hopefully. But these boxes are usually perfect if you're starting an army, unless it's one of the, oh shit, we have too much stock of this miniature. Quickly, someone make a value box to get rid of it. I will admit, I've fallen for this multiple times, but more so when I actually want to start an army, like when I started my Custodes army, due to me getting the ball rolling with a Telemon and then deciding he needed some friends, and that Watches the Gate box at retail 5 months later was just too tempting. Which then goes into the psychology of, hey, I should probably buy this special edition box that's been sitting here for 5 months, because if I don't get it, someone else will, since it's a great deal and everything I need is in this box. It seems like going forward, this is GW's plan to both reduce old stock and squeeze more money out of players when there's usually only one new mini in this $250 box. The Christmas boxes are usually great deals if you want to start a new army, but you should ask yourself, do I really need these minis even though I have a ton of unpainted ones already? If you don't, it then reinforces the sunk cost fallacy you spiraled into, and the cycle repeats until you finally break free from GW's stranglehold. Anyways, thanks for watching the video, and a huge thank you to the Gigas of the Chads, the channel members and Twitch subscribers. So if you too want to be a Giga Chad and help fund these stupid ventures, consider becoming a member of either for access to the members section of the Discord and other things. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe along with Super Hype if you're on mobile, but I have to go make more terrible financial decisions, so I'll see you all in the next video, and remember, when you play Warhammer, being poor is a choice.